For the first time in a long time, I stopped playing Destiny. The last time I stopped playing Destiny was all the way back in 2015, in that weird time between the Taken King expansion and that 2016 April update. Back in those days, the problem was that there was simply nothing to do. Once I finished King's Fall on hard mode, I just stopped. I got all the gear for it, and there was no more reason for me to play. Now, of course, there's nothing really wrong with this. I mean, not every game needs to last forever, have consistent content to keep me happy. But if you were a part of this community at the time, you'd know that a lot of people were upset by the long content droughts. And it wasn't just this period either. It happened time and time again. However, it wouldn't be until Forsaken in 2018 where they would completely revamp the way content was delivered in the series. After this, Bungie would introduce the annual pass system, where new seasons were released every 3 months in addition to the yearly expansion. Now, this system is still used to this day, but with this new system came a new problem: FOMO. In recent years, FOMO has become more and more prevalent across the gaming sphere. 2 decades ago, the idea of a game changing at all after buying it was still considered a brand new concept, but now it's not uncommon to see games change on a weekly or even daily basis. Battle royales like Fortnite and Apex Legends have a rotating item shop that changes items constantly. Gacha games like Genshin Impact have their entire roster of characters on a 3-week rotation with no guarantees that the same characters will ever be featured again. Most every kind of active game receives hotfixes and minor updates on a weekly basis. Now, what makes Destiny unique is that it's a game that has elements of all these live service techniques. Destiny has an item shop of rotating gear, both for in-game currency and real-world money. It receives constant updates from weekly hotfixes to big yearly expansions. It has events every season that last for a couple of weeks with exclusive content within it. The seasons themselves also feature time-limited objectives, stories, armor, weapons, cosmetics, and achievements. The thing about this is that alone, none of these things are necessarily bad, but the combination of all these scenarios that control when your opportunity to do something ends gives me this enormous sense of urgency that I don't always feel like having to deal with, that makes the event in question feel unfun. Yet I participate anyways, because I'm afraid that I will never be able to again. There's something about being dedicated to a game that messes with the way you think. You no longer think about actually having fun with the game, and instead think of it as if you are actually within the game world itself. You feel like you have to get that task done no matter how boring it is because it's important in some way. For me, Destiny always kept me hooked because I like progression and collection mechanics in video games, and the idea of ticking off all the boxes and doing as much as I can within a game is fun to me, and I reckon a lot of people who play looter games like Destiny feel the same way. The problem is that you start to become a slave to that mentality if you really let the game sink its teeth into you. As I said before, I've been playing Destiny for a long time. Ever since the beta for the first game dropped on Xbox 360, I've been there. I've gone through all the highs and lows of the franchise. I was there when Atheon was first defeated. I was there when Xur sold that funny rocket launcher that nobody thought was worth buying, only for it to be the best weapon in the game. I was there when people started pulling their Ethernet cord just to beat Crota. I was there when I went flawless in the inaugural season of Trials of Osiris. I was there when every Skull SLFG required you to have the aforementioned funny rocket launcher or you would be banned from joining the group. And that was only the first year. I was 14 to 15 years old when all that happened. I'm almost 20 now, and I'm still here. And yet, after all these years of sticking around through thick and thin, only now do I question the validity of my reason for playing. I think it's funny now, of all times, is when this happens. The last 2 seasons have been pretty great, in my opinion. Now, sure, the Destiny community has a unique ability to find a new thing to complain about on a daily basis, but let's be honest with ourselves. Can you genuinely say that the game is in a bad state? Maybe if you're a PvP player, sure, but excluding that, I don't think the PvE side of things has ever been better. The story has gone from the absolute mess of the original 2014 version to an extremely compelling political commentary about tolerance and trust and about doing what's right for not just your people, but for everyone's people. The game has more content than ever. The long upheld Taken King DLC didn't even have a quarter of the quality story and gameplay that we have now. And still, I've lost my will to come back. Now, I'm not some father of 3 with a 9 to 5 who has no time to keep up with Destiny. I'm a kid who, at the time of writing, is a college student on summer break with no job and an unlimited amount of time on his hands. Earlier this summer, if the game demanded 8 hours of my time a day, I would probably comply, and I'd still have time to spare. I played Season of the Chosen religiously. I bested all the Grandmaster Nightfalls. I got to over level 300, I think, on the Season Pass. I played through Presage probably dozens of times, and I also made sure to witness all the story events that genuinely have me intrigued and caring about what would come next and what this would mean for the Destiny universe. Now, well, after beating Vault of Glass this season, I've stopped. I haven't even played Master Mode yet. I've never skipped a piece of content like that. I also skipped Solstice of Heroes completely, and I've never skipped a seasonal event either. A couple of months ago, I would have never turned down that armor, but I did. All I did was get the shotgun, then logged off for weeks. My last login date was, what was it? July 4th? I mean, it's mid-August now. I only just logged in today to get this footage and finish up the rest of the story that I haven't seen yet. And I find it funny that the thing keeping me coming back to this game is the story because of how terrible it used to be. If you told 2014 me, 14-year-old me, that the thing that would keep me interested in the game was the story, I wouldn't believe you because it sounds so ridiculous. Yet that is what's keeping me playing this game. All that being said, I don't hate Destiny. I wouldn't have stuck around if I did, and the same probably goes for everyone else in the community, from the Twitch streamers to the Twitter crybabies to the godforsaken trials hackers. We all like this game secretly, at the very least. And while I never see very many people talk about FOMO in this game, I believe it's a part of the reason this game's community's fuse is so short. After all, how can you really ever enjoy something when the anxiety of a time limit is always looming? That being said, you could have a completely different problem with the game. I didn't exactly conduct a survey about how many people agree with me, and for all I know, maybe no one does. But does that make me wrong? I like to think it doesn't. And if that's the case, it's a problem that needs fixing. So what can Bungie do to actually fix this problem? Well, let's have a look at some other live service games and take some notes from them. Recently, I began playing Final Fantasy XIV, like a lot of people have been. And something I find funny is that despite the fact that this game uses a monthly subscription model, and I'm almost a decade behind the founding players, I feel no pressure to spend 8 hours a day playing it just because I'll miss out on something. Now sure, Final Fantasy XIV has limited time events like every other live service game, but at least these don't really take up too much time, and don't make me feel like I'm just doing it because I have to. All the story content from all the previous expansions is still there, all the armor and the gear is still available to get. Hell, even the near crossover event that they did is still in the game despite that promotion being long over. There's no anxiety over having to play this game. I can come and go as I please. I have time to play other things. I feel free to leave this game behind and not feel bad about it. Another game that you might not expect here is Genshin Impact. I say that because it's a gacha game, and according to the people who play those kind of games, all 12 who speak English at least, it's a rather egregious one, with high microtransaction prices and a very low chance of actually getting the characters you want. It's not exactly the poster child for ethical gaming business models. Yet, there is one thing Genshin does better than Destiny in this field, and it's respecting the player's time. I usually play Genshin maybe like an hour a day, max, and even then, when there's a limited time event running, maybe like an hour and a half, 2 hours. The only time you'll see me play more is if new story content drops. And that's an example of content that, I want to play regardless of what my thoughts are about how much time that takes up, because it's always new content. The thing is, I'm usually more satisfied with that hour of Genshin gameplay than I am 8 hours of Destiny gameplay, despite me holding both of their combat systems in rather high regard. Why is that? Well, it's simple. Genshin doesn't push its luck with how much I like it. Too much of anything is bad, and Destiny requires you to spend a significantly longer amount of time to make relatively similar progress in the game. I would probably be just as annoyed with Genshin as I am with Destiny if doing my daily commissions took me as long as it does to do the daily activities of Destiny. Even grinding in Genshin will maybe take you 2 hours max to get a whole set of good artifacts. In Destiny, that's a whole day, and that's probably only for just one good roll on a single gun. This complaint ties in pretty closely, I think, with the Solstice of Heroes event. Now, I said earlier that I didn't participate in this season's, and it's just because for the third year in a row, we had access to the European aerial zone. And I just knew I didn't have it in me anymore. I mean, I think the entire community agrees that this event is terrible. Like, the gear is good and the zone is fun maybe the first couple times, but you have to run it over and over and over and over again to get this gear. And you have to play a lot to get the legendary gear, which is the actual gear you want. And it's so oppressing. I just don't want to do it. If the event only took maybe like an hour a day for a couple weeks, okay, that's something I can get behind, right? But the fact of the matter is that, like, if I want to get stuff done in Destiny and do this event, I have to play at least like 3-4 hours a day to get that done. And I just don't want to. I want to play other games. I want to play other games. I just got Game Pass. A lot of games I want to play on there. Like I said, I started playing Final Fantasy 14, and I've really been liking that, so that's been taking up a lot of my time too. I just can't. I can't care. I want to, but I can't. And it sucks because, as I said earlier, Destiny is a good game. I really don't think it's bad like a lot of people want to say it is. I think the gameplay is still unrivaled in the shooter genre. It's so responsive and the abilities are fun. I want to play this game and I want to enjoy it. And I do enjoy it when there's actual new content. But the way Bungie makes you do something over and over and over and over and over again and calling it content is just mind-boggling to me. Like, there's only so long before I'm going to go insane, right? And I feel like I'm at that point, right? It's like, you want me to go into that dastardly European aerial zone again? No. I hated it the first time. I hated it the second time. And I just knew I would hate it the third time. And, you know, I was already the fool for falling for it twice, right? So I was not going to fall for it thrice, right? I had to throw in the towel. And that's why I didn't participate in this year's Solstice of Heroes. Now, what could Bungie do to fix this? We compared the problems that other games have and how they solved it. So what can Bungie do to change things? Well, I think the first fix is rather obvious. Stop with the ridiculously time-consuming objectives. Bungie, if you want to make something difficult to obtain, make it hard. This community begs for difficult content, and you've been doing a better job at giving us that content. Day 1 Vault of Glass was actually more difficult than I thought it would be. And Master Mode, from what I've heard, because I haven't played it, is actually a good difficulty spike. Not as good as people want it to be, though, but at least it is a difficulty spike. And it's good that you have this hard content. Bungie, use that hard content. If you want something to be hard to get, you gotta make it hard to get in a way that feels fair. Not in a way that makes me say, Jesus, I want to move on with my life. Can I please get this over with? Because that's just torture. That's just torture. I want to do something else. And I still play this game because I want the gear. Now, yeah, sure. That's maybe more of a sign of mental illness on my part than anything else. But God, we all want that gear. But the fact that the ability to get the gear is tied behind my commitment is wrong. Because in the end, this is just a video game. This isn't my life. I just want to have fun and earn gear. But it becomes a job, right? And ironically, Final Fantasy 14, a game where you can get a job, is more fun than doing the job that Bungie passes as a fun activity. And that's just the most ironic thing ever. So step 1, add it to the list. Make hard to get content difficult, not time consuming. Now, the second thing on this list is a little harder to solve. And it's not so much focused on players like you and me, because chances are if you're watching this video, you're also a pretty committed player. But it's more for the people who want to play everything a game has to offer and are newer to the game. And it has to do with old content. There is so much content in this game that is gone forever. Imagine you being a new player trying to understand the story. You can maybe pick it up, but in the end, a person's never going to know what happened in the Red War campaign without watching a movie on YouTube. How's that? That's just stupid. And I think people haven't thought about this yet, but Bungie has said they're going to keep vaulting content actively as they need to, right? What's to say Forsaken won't be vaulted when Witch Queen comes out? I mean, it'd only be fair, right? They had to get rid of Red War to make room for Beyond Light. They probably have to get rid of something else to make room for Witch Queen. And what's it going to be, guys? It's probably going to be Forsaken and its content. Now, I think this is stupid. And I understand the reason why they do it, right? They made that whole argument some time back about why they're doing it and why they feel like it's a lesser of two evils. But Jesus, is this bad for like a new user experience? And it's not just like the story content, it's the gear and the weapons. You want to get something from that part of the game? Well, it's probably gone. The source of it at least is gone. And you just can't get it. You want to get something like Recluse, Redrix's Broadsword, Mountaintop? You can't get them anymore. And yeah, sure, you know, that gear is outdated anyways because of sunsetting, but still, it's like, you want to get this gear, you could just not be able to ever again. That's dumb. That's dumb. Now, of course, like I said, for you and me, this probably isn't a big issue. So we'll label this a minor issue. But issue 3, I feel like, is the big one that's currently bothering me and what made me stop playing this season. And it is the way seasonal content works. Let's use the seasonal challenges board that was added last season as a metric for how annoying it is to do everything you can in Destiny. They will give you a list of, I don't know how many objectives, at least like 4 a week, but in the earlier weeks it's usually around like 8 or 10. And you have the whole season to complete them. But as time goes on and they start racking up and you start falling behind at all in them, it starts to become harder and harder to actually complete these objectives. Now, in the end, the big reward for finishing all this is just some bright dust, which is, gives you cosmetic gear. But the thing is that this problem extends to almost everything that the game has to offer. I feel the need to log in every week and do something every week, because if I don't do it this week, I'll never do it. The thing that really killed me was the grind to get to Grandmaster. If you want to play Grandmaster content, you gotta level up, and you gotta level up hard. You gotta be pretty damn dedicated to even participate in the hardest content the game has to offer. I think this is stupid. I barely was able to get playing Grandmaster Nightfalls in time during Season of the Chosen, and that was probably the most I've ever played this game in a long time. And I was barely able to get in on week 1. I did the first week Grandmaster during Season of the Chosen on the Monday before reset, because that's just when I got the gear. And this season, when I didn't have as much like want to play the game, it was infeasible. But it's dumb because I did all the Grandmasters last season. I know I'm capable of doing it, yet Bungie artificially throws this kind of content so far up Endgame's ass that you have to play this game all day, every day. And this goes back to the thing I said earlier about respecting my time. I get it, right? I'm apparently in the minority of people who actually play like multiple games on a consistent basis. Because apparently, at least from the way a lot of these communities act, people just kind of play one game and only play that over and over again, unless they're into like story games or something. But for people who play multiplayer or MMOs, this is apparently weird for me to want to play other games. Yet I feel like I've joined this culture that completely clashes with my own, because I also want to play story games and I want to play a lot of them. I'm trying to balance my time between playing games like Destiny, Final Fantasy, Yakuza, Genshin, and I have to do that every single day, right? Because they all fulfill different needs of what I want to play. But it's getting overwhelming, and I had to drop one of them, and I chose Destiny because it was the one that was annoying me the most, right? Like I said, Genshin, only play an hour a day. I feel satisfied playing it. Final Fantasy 14, well, it's new to me. That nostalgia factor hasn't hit in. To me, it's still a new thing that I'm having tons of fun with, and I have yet to encounter anything that is actually repetitive in the game yet, which is fun. And the progression is also fun, so I can keep playing that. And as for Yakuza, I've been playing Yakuza 0 lately. You know, that's fulfilling my story needs while I, you know, wait for games like Destiny and Final Fantasy to progress. And I had the pick in the end to get rid of Destiny, because all those other games I could fit in to like a day's play session. But Destiny, it demanded the whole damn thing. It's greedy. It's greedy. Not in a monetary way, but in an emotional way. And I just have nothing left to give to it. I have been drained. Now I know this might seem like a personal gripe, and really it is. I know it is. But still, I'm sure all of you can agree that it's kind of stupid how much time you need to put into this game. I mean, wouldn't you enjoy not having to spend several hours a day to grind to Grandmaster and stuff like that? I mean, it's just ridiculous. How much you play a game does not reflect on how good you are at it. Now, of course, the more you play something, naturally, the better you will get at it, right? But I've played enough shooters to be good at them. I don't need to prove through dozens upon dozens upon dozens upon dozens of hours of playing this game just to prove that I can play the endgame content. I think that's stupid. I want to play it at my own pace, but Bungie doesn't let you. You play when they say you play, and you're playing now, and you're playing as much as you can. And even then, there still might be a chance that you don't finish. Boo-hoo. As I said before, and I'm going to keep saying it because I don't want people to misconstrue what I'm saying here. I really do love this game. I wouldn't have bought all the merch I have. I wouldn't have put as much money into the game itself as I have if I didn't care. And I want to keep playing. I want to have the enthusiasm to keep playing. But there's just always something with the way Bungie handles its mechanics that irks me. And it extends to everything, right? It's not just about the FOMO stuff that I've been talking about. It's why PvP is dog shit, right? They just, in their heads, they don't quite seem to understand the priorities people have. They have their own set of priorities, and they declare what is important and what isn't. That's why PvP has been shafted, because to them, it's not important. They can say it's important all they want, but I mean, even they've admitted, you know, they just said that to please you. And it's brutal. It's just brutal. And I get it, right? They don't have time to pander to everybody. Nobody does, right? As I've always said, if you expect the game to appeal to everyone, you are insane. That will never happen. Any game that tries to please everybody will please nobody. And Bungie knows this, and they focus on what's important to them while sacrificing another part of the community. In this case, I'm talking about PvP. But for me, it's the time itself that is getting to me. And while everyone else is complaining about Trials and Crucible itself, and about how Bungie is just completely ignoring all the important problems with it, I'm sitting here and I don't even have any representation for my issue. I just don't have the commitment anymore. You could say it's burnout, but I've been burnt out of this game before. But it's never given me this feeling of not wanting to come back. I don't feel like I'm taking a break. I feel like I'm done. And I know it's a classic catchphrase of every Destiny YouTuber and Destiny player out there to say, if this DLC isn't good, I'm quitting, knowing full well that they will not quit. But I'm at this point where I don't feel like quitting. I just feel like giving up. I just can't care. But anyways, I want to know what you guys think. Do you guys have a similar experience with FOMO? As I said before, I don't hear it at all from anyone in the community. But to me, it is what is ruining the game for me. And I want to know if anyone else has had a similar problem. Maybe it's not as big as a problem for you as it is for me. But I want to hear from you if you've felt this way about any of the things I mentioned at all. And maybe if enough people speak up about it, we can fix this problem. In the end, I really don't think it's a hard problem to fix. Like I said, for upcoming content, just make it harder, not longer. That there's an innuendo in there somewhere. And just improve the experience for people who are both new to the game and people who want to be committed to the game, but also play something else and do other things with their time. Because I think that's important as a game developer, to respect your players' time and their life. I think Bungie just has tunnel vision, and it's not their fault. They're focusing on their product. And to them, the product is their company. It's their world, so to speak. But there's also another world, the real one. And oftentimes, I feel like game developers might just forget this when developing. But that's all, folks. Kentaiga out.